All right, welcome back to another episode of Class Haven Farms. I know the last time I left off with you guys, I told you I was going to do a video on this right here. It's my 1960 Chevy Viking dump truck that came from my grandparents' dairy farm before it was sold. So without further ado, let's get into this. All right, so here we are. Make sure that if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button, and I would love to hear some comments from you guys, especially those of you that are following me because you want to see the progress on this truck. Maybe you have some trucks that you're working on and it's something similar. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm not a professional in this. I worked at a recycled auto parts place when I was younger, kind of growing up. I worked at my uncle's body shop painting cars. I'm not going to say that I'm an expert at any of that, very novice at the most, but I've always kind of been a gearhead. Got that from my dad and my grandfather and all that. That's kind of the way I am now. So if you guys see something, by all means, please let me know. Comment, like, share, subscribe, and just kind of follow me along on this journey. So this is my grandfather's 1960 Chevy Viking dump truck. Originally, this truck was not a dump truck. It was a flatbed truck that my grandfather eventually made into a dump truck. This was used on the family dairy farm. Grandfather bought it in 1970 from a turf company, a turf farm that was right around the corner from the dairy farm. The dump body here came from obviously another truck, because you can look at the header and see that that looks different. This came from old scrapyard up in Woodbine, Maryland, and you can kind of see where this dump body was a lot longer, and it was cut here and welded together to fit onto this shorter wheelbase truck. And you know, it's just one of those things. It's an old farm truck, and you know, farmers back then, they made everything work. You didn't have the money to just go out and buy brand new stuff or take a loan out. You just made it work with what you had. So a lot of cool things to this truck. I grew up around this truck. This truck has not run in I don't know how long. From what I can gather from my uncles and just talking to family members, believe it's a 261 inline six, that the bottom radiator hose was split or something to that effect and was leaking, and it was running one day. They were out using it in the field, and it ran until it overheated and locked up. And I can attest to that because when I first got this truck back in January of 2020, the first thing I did was pop the spark plugs out. I started pumping diesel fluid down the cylinders every couple days for about 2 or 3 months, putting it in. Took the starter out, went to try to turn the flywheel over, and not happening, buddy. She was locked up solid. So engine's locked up. Don't know how bad it is. Won't know until I get it yanked out if it's salvageable. Not sure, but we'll see. But you can see, looking at this truck, she led a hard life. Obviously this hood is no good. A lot of rust up in the front, a lot of rust in the fenders, the doors, the cab. In all honesty, this cab is completely shot. So I can buy a lot of these parts from LMC Truck, but you guys know that do this work, sometimes those panels are not the best. And it's okay if you're patching certain small panels and things like that, but when you're doing the entire thing, sometimes it's a lot harder to do that, especially because I don't have a lot of those tools. So I'm gonna have to buy this stuff over time, and it's gonna be a journey. It's gonna be fun. So what I did was, I knew what I had here, had the truck, had to go through the process of getting the title straight, and oh my god, in the state of Maryland, good luck with that. You know, old farm, so paperwork was up in the attic. That got all messed up from mice and just being in the attic. So long story short, my uncles had to reopen the estate, include this dump truck in the estate, then go through all the will paperwork and all that stuff. And then COVID hit. So once we got everything straight, I had to pay a guy $350 to do an appraisal on this. A guy came down from Pasadena, did a appraisal on it. Cost me $350 for him to say it's worth $1,200. Now, those of you that know anything about old trucks, I don't think this truck's worth $1,200. Of course, I had to pay the taxes on the $1,200. I mean, it is what it is. It's done now, we're good to go. But it was funny, the minute I got my paperwork and everything was straight, I went to go make an appointment with MVA, and that was in March, and then COVID hit and that got shut down. So the minute the MVA here in Maryland opened back up, man, I was like the first one to make an appointment online and just get this straight. So I had the title in my name, so I got the title moved from my grandfather's name into my name, got everything changed around. Kind of an interesting fact to this, when I got the paperwork, again, my grandfather titled this in 1970. It cost my grandfather like $2.50 to title this truck back in 1970. And anybody from Maryland knows you ain't getting nothing titled for $250 now. That's why everybody goes with main tags on their trailers, because Maryland's out there dang mine with how much they want to charge everybody on it. So just kind of looking over the truck, you can see she's led a hard life, a lot of rust, a lot of stuff going on, but it's got a good frame. It's got a good, well, at least from what I understand, it's got a good rear. It's got the front end suspension, things like that. Engine's going to be questionable, so my game plan, I'll pull the engine out. My dad's got a little machine shop stuff set up at his place. He's going to go through it for me, see what we can salvage out of it, if anything. So while I was in the process of that, I came onto this truck in an online auction. Now, I nicknamed this one the Kansas truck, and the reason why it's a Kansas truck is because it came from Kansas. So this is the story I have on this truck. This truck was used as a grain truck, as you can tell with the body. And in 1990, this truck got rear-ended. These old dump trucks and old body trucks like this, they didn't have the ICC bars on the back. And the ICC bar is that bar that comes here, and it basically keeps cars from being able to slide up underneath here and rear-end you. Well, if you look at the rear, she's kind of shifted on this truck. So the rear is probably no good. The frame is definitely no good because the frame is bent. Something kind of cool though. There's your Kansas tag from 1990. So this truck sat in a barn from 1990 until May of this year, when it got put up into an online auction. I saw it, watched it for about a month, talked to my father about it, knew I could get the truck relatively cheap. There was no title with it. They said that it ran when it was parked, but it hadn't been run in years. So I called my dad and I'm like, hey, what do you think? This cab is a lot cleaner. It's the same thing. I know I can get the truck. The only question is, can I get a trailer to bring the truck back from Kansas? I got the truck. I have a Chevy Duramax to tow it back. So my dad kind of talked to me. We talked about it. Came up with a game plan of how much I wanted to spend on the truck itself. Then I got some shipping quotes. The first shipping quote I got was $1,900 to ship it out from Kansas to here. And right before the auction went on, I got notified that that quote was no longer good because of all the riots that were going on. That's when all the riots were going on in your big cities, and the excuse that I got was because I'm kind of in the middle between Baltimore and DC. They didn't want to take a chance, which I thought the guy was kind of blowing smoke. So I started calling around to a couple different shipping companies, and everyone kind of told me the same thing. They were really worried about the riots. I had one guy tell me he lost a lot of money on a load that went out to the state of California, and that he wasn't even going out to California at that present time because of losing so much money. So long story short, this ended up costing me $2,200 to get it shipped out. I paid $680 for the truck. So to me, you know, I almost just nixed the whole thing together because I told my father, man, that's just a lot of money to put out for a truck that doesn't even have a title. And yeah, they say it ran, but you guys know, sometimes you don't know who you're dealing with. Maybe it ran 10 years ago, but who knows. But I was very happy when the truck came in. I'm so thankful for my father. My father loaned me the money, or really loaned me. He told me he was just going to take care of it, to make sure that this truck came here so we could make this truck run again and be back on the road. And Dad, if you're watching this, I love you. I appreciate it. I think my dad kind of, for the first time, really saw me kind of lose it when I went to go get this truck. Because when we went to the farm, that was the last time I was going to be at the farm. The farm was selling, and I don't think I could ever go back to that farm. I mean, the fields were all grown over anyway, and I had never seen it like that. It was so sad to see it just falling apart, and they're going to take that land and just turn it into another housing development. So to get this truck was very special to me because it's the last thing that I have from my grandfather. And my grandfather's been gone since 2006, so it's not like it just happened. But I think as you get older, you realize, you know, they don't make them like they used to anymore. Talking about our grandparents. My grandfather and my grandmother, they were tough. My grandmother would tell you she was a tough old bird. She didn't like going to doctors. She didn't like doing anything. She tried to take care of everything herself. And, you know, they just don't make them like that anymore. And it really was special to me to be able to hold on to this and keep it. And as you guys can see, I mean, I plan on using this truck. This isn't going to be something that you're going to see like in a museum piece. Like, there's probably still going to be the holes in the floorboards that came from the factory when they just cut the shifter hole out. I mean, I'm not expecting this thing to be perfect, but I do want to take it back to its original form as best as I can. So this truck here, got it. Was awesome. The guy that brought it out to me was a great dude. You know, he was from Texas, so he was like, man, it's really cool to see one of these old trucks. So with this truck, like I said, the frame's bent. The rear, in my eyes, is probably no good, and I'm just going to say that it's no good. I mean, I'll go through it once I get it all apart. The engine that's in it is a 327. Now, if it was period correct, this engine should be a 348 V8, but it's a 327. I did find paperwork in the glove box that said probably sometime in the mid 80s that the engine was replaced, and that my guess would be, kind of looking at it, that it was done at a GM dealer, just because some of the decals and stickers that I found on the engine. I have pulled all the spark plugs out and just started putting some Marvel's Mystery Oil and PB Blaster down the cylinders. And I only really tried to turn the belt by hand, and it didn't turn. So I put some of that stuff down there, just let it soak and see if I can get it to turn over. My game plan is to get this truck running before I yank it out of here. So before I take this truck apart, I want to get the engine running, make sure that it runs good. Obviously, I won't be able to drive it because, as you can see, from that thing getting rear-ended, I mean, it shot the drive shaft out of the back of the trans. It shifted the leaf springs. It actually broke part of the leaf spring over on this side. So, but at least if I can get it running, then I know what I have, and I know that the engine's running and everything's good. So that'll probably be another video that I do for you guys, and that will be a true cold start, because from what I can gather, this thing ran back in 1990, and I don't know that it's been run since. The other thing, and this is something that I want you guys to help me with, and leave me a comment if you see anything on there, if you see something that I'm missing as I go through this process of putting this truck back together, please let me know. But since this is not the original bed, I don't think I'm going to keep this bed. Two reasons. It's nice that it's metal and that it's flat. It doesn't have sides, so I'd have to build sides. And this one, if I can remember right, they were, I think I got a piece right here. This was the metal that was down in here, and this was part of the side. Now, I think there was some scrappers that went to the farm, and probably these sides, because my uncles haven't been able to find them, these sides were probably laying around and the scrappers took them. So I don't have sides for it. It is nice that this one is sectional. I remember we used to be able to section like cows off if we were taking them using these holes, because on the bottom of this is a welded piece of steel, so that you could put poles in there and separate the calves and things like that, and we would use it for that. So that's kind of nice. But this thing is heavy. This bed is heavy. I mean, this stuff is thick. So that's one problem with it. The other problem with it, there's just some welds here that I just kind of question the integrity, and when I start driving down the road, how it's going to be bouncing and moving. And if I got up on this bed, because my kids got up there, the bed shakes real bad. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't know, I don't think I want to keep this. Might be able to sell it to somebody. If not, I'll probably just take it to the scrap yard and just get scrap money for it. So if there's anybody that's watching this that's interested in a dump bed on this, I can get the measurements for you. Just send me a message and we'll get up. But what I'm thinking is, I'm gonna save this bed. This is a grain body bed. The cool thing about this, there was, I'll see if I can get close enough so you can see it. Somebody had, I guess, had a stencil that they spray painted on there at some point in time with this color, and then they went back over it with a white. And it's just cool because it was done by hand, and you don't see that anymore. So I'm almost thinking I'm gonna save this bed. The floor in it, I'll replace it. It's not that bad, but I'll replace it. The wood, I'm probably gonna try to keep because most of the wood is in pretty decent shape. Just got to get it out of this weather because now it's sitting outside. But my game plan for this truck is to do that hemlock green, because from what I can gather, and like I said, if anybody knows any different, please let me know. This truck was hemlock green from the factory. So I'm going to keep it hemlock green. So the cab would be hemlock green, this would be hemlock green, and that would continue to be white. And then I would recreate those stars and put those back on there. I would do the wheels in white, and then just kind of keep all my front end white. And then I would probably do this Chevy right here in the hemlock green. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Just think it would look cooler. Plus, I can still use it as a grain truck. So I have a couple buddies that have some farms around here that they were like, man, that would be so cool if you could get that running again. He's like, man, we could do a video of us dumping grain into that body, and you just take it over to the elevator. And I thought that would be pretty neat too. So anyway, so that's the video on the two trucks. I know this is like a 16-minute long, 17-minute long video. So if you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Again, man, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. There's going to be more videos to come on these two trucks and just kind of putting them all together. And I'm so excited to getting into it. I like kind of doing this stuff. This is like mechanical therapy to me because I don't do this every day like I used to when I was younger. So it's just something that is, for me, fun to do. So again, guys, thank you very much. Again, leave comments, like and subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll see you on the next one.